Hi all, we are again here with the Baltic Talks, and today we'll try to speak and discuss a little about the fertilizer ports in the Baltic Sea area. And Edward Stern was working with the best available techniques and also the assessment of the situation with the fertilizer ports and fertilizer handling in the Baltic ports within recent year. So what do you think, Ed? What about the scale of the problem?
From some data collected in 2013, the total turnover of fertilizers in the Baltic Sea was about 33 million tons. That's a lot of fertilizer, including fertilizers that both are and are not challenges for eutrophication, which includes a lot of potassium, maybe not quite half potassium, which isn't as much of an issue as nitrogen and phosphorus. There are losses from this, and that's the challenge, the losses in fertilizer being spilled really along the whole logistics chain, but particularly when it's being transferred on and off of ships. In terms of dry bulk cargo, that's what we're talking about right now. There are other liquid fertilizers and bag fertilizers that are not part of that number.
Perhaps we should also compare this figure of the potential loss out of those 33 million tons of fertilizer transported or loaded or unloaded in the Baltic Sea area with some relative figures of needed reductions. And perhaps also you could give an example of what would it mean out of 1 ton.
Right, the most conservative estimate for losses in dry bulk fertilizer, now this comes from a paper published in 2016, is about half of a percent, or 1 out of 2,000, 0.05% losses, which is very small. And its industry in some ways can be championed for that, because that's not allowed out of scale. That's about half a kilogram out of 1 ton, or half a kilo from 1,000 kilos. However, when we're talking about 33 million tons, that comes to about 16,700 tons of fertilizer lost in the Baltic Sea area as the most conservative estimate. Now we could knock off maybe half of that because half is maybe a potassium-based fertilizer, which is relatively inert in terms of eutrophication, which gives us about 8,000 tons. However, that scale based on actual industry standards, for example, insurance losses are allowed to be 0.5%, which is actually an order of magnitude greater, not 1 out of 2,000, but 1 out of 200. So we're looking at a lot more. That 8,000 tons could be 80,000 tons. But then we could compare that to the reduction targets according to the Baltic Sea Action Plan, which are across the whole Baltic, 15,000 tons?
Well, it's 15,000 tons of needed reduction for phosphorus and approximately 135 for nitrogen. But we believe that this could be quite a low-hanging fruit measure.
Losses can come in different places. It can come when the fertilizer itself, the dry bulk fertilizer, is being moved on or off the vessel, the actual transfer and using that equipment. The losses can also come when ships are washing the holds, when they unload fertilizer, and if they're transferring to a different kind of cargo, which is quite common, they need to wash the residues out of the hold, which includes elements of these fertilizers. And exactly what happens to it then is actually a pretty big mystery.
Let's talk about the solutions to this problem. So what do we believe is possible to do to prevent and reduce these losses?
Industry has actually already done a lot to reduce losses to get down to this 0.5%, covering cargo, conveyor belts, for example, and following ISO standards for cleanups and port management. There's certainly more to do based on the kind of loading and unloading equipment used, certainly finding enough port reception facilities as well. And so a key thing I want to emphasize is that we're not trying to point fingers that anybody has done anything expressly wrong. There's been a lot of good work. It just happens to be that this fraction of a percent that's left is having a tremendous effect on eutrophication in the Baltic Sea.
Also wanted to share the information that we have raised the attention of HELCOM contracting bodies, the countries around the Baltic Sea, and also European Commission to this problem. We are also open to work with the industry, of course, and different stakeholders in order to move this issue forward. Perhaps it could be even raised further at the global level, at the IMO level, because we believe that hold washings, this grey area that is not yet really discovered, neither in the Baltic nor anywhere else. Would be important to explore in order to prevent and reduce the impacts connected to this type of ship-generated impacts on the environment. Oh, cargo-generated, sorry.
See you in the next Baltic Talk.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.